What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word? Hummingbird. Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for another review of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 2, Episode 22, Reunion Part 1. So, first of all, Bravo gives us a disclaimer saying that the reason why we're going to see Jenny win again is because her controversial remarks or her controversial support of anything against Black Lives Matter did not come out until after they did the recording of the reunion, and that's why she was invited, because at that point the you-know-what hadn't hit the fan yet. Then we see a scene of Andy going into Jen Shah's dressing room and telling Jen Shah that when Erica Girardi did her reunion for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, her questions were not given to her prior to recording. In other words, she was not, she didn't have no one gave her the questions beforehand to allow her time to prepare on how she was going to answer those really hard-hitting questions about her legal issues. And so he reassures Jen Shah that no, her questions were not given to her beforehand. She got the questions on the stage just like everybody else. So I don't want you to think that, you know, she got special treatment, and you're not getting special treatment. It's the same across the field. And I didn't know that those rumors were circulating, that Erica Girardi had gotten her questions beforehand and that she was allowed to prepare on how she was going to answer those really tough hitting questions. I had no idea that was going on. So I guess that reassured Jen, but you know, you can only, Andy Cohen, you know, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Andy. So moving on from that, the outfits. Okay, everybody looked really nice. I'm not a fashionista, so I'm not going to sit up here and say what was bad, what was not bad. I have no idea. To me, they all looked really nice. The only thing is, I wish that Meredith had worn a gown. I thought that her outfit, the pants and everything, was a little bit understated for her. I think she really could have come out banging, but her outfit to me was like, out of all the women, I probably liked hers the least because it just didn't give any type of wow factor. And as far as Whitney, I thought the green was beautiful. I thought she looked beautiful, but I didn't like the one-handed Michael Jackson glove. I didn't like that. I didn't like how it looked as if the glove was actually attached or was a part of the sleeve. I just didn't get that. To me, it was kind of 80s looking, you know, the off the shoulder or the one shoulder and the glove. I didn't get that. But like I said, maybe that's what's trending right now. Maybe that's what's in right now, but I have no idea. But my personal taste, I didn't care for her outfit. Heather looked nice. Jenny Wynn, I think her outfit was not very memorable. And Lisa, it was a beautiful color. Andy made a comment about how pretty, or how, you know, how he liked the color, and the color of her dress was really nice. Now, let's move on to Miss Jen Shah. Miss Jen Shah, she came out like she was about to do a show in Caesar's Palace or something. Like she was about to do either a Broadway show or a Vegas show or something. She gave us the wow factor. Whether you liked it or you didn't like it, you definitely remembered it, and it definitely made an impression. And I think half the time you just want to make an impression. Whether it's a good one or a bad one, you just want to be memorable, and she did that. Definitely. Moving on. So they talk about why Mary isn't there. Andy said that he talked to Mary, and Mary said that she didn't want to show up because she didn't like how the women talked about her church behind her back. Well, I don't think it had anything to do with the church, Mary, because people talk about your church every day, all day on the internet. So I don't think you're really bothered by that, because you've said so many times that these women are not even your friends. So what do you care what they think about your church? You weren't like devastated that these women were talking about your church. You don't trust them. You don't even like them. So who cares if they're talking about your church? You didn't show up because you didn't want to face the music about the racist comments you said about Jen and Jenny Wynn. So you want to hide in the shadows and not take responsibility or any type of accountability about what you said. And you sure as hell don't want the backlash from the internet of how they were going to roast you again once you appear on the reunion. But you should have shown up, at least to show that you understood that what you said was wrong, and that maybe you said things out of the heat of the moment or whatever, who knows, but you could have at least apologized, shown some type of remorse, and then we could all collectively move on. But you chose not to do that. And so there's going to be a bunch of people out there that are going to believe this is just how you are. This is what you believe. You like to say racial or racist remarks to people, even though you yourself are a person of color, but this is just how you roll. And that's going to be your legacy. So moving on, Jen Shah. Andy reads off the list of, I say list, but there's only 2 charges. He talks about what she's been charged with. And she's been charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. And she faces a total of 50 years in prison when you take both charges combined. One has 30 years, the other one carries 20 years. So if she gets convicted on both, there's a possibility of 50 years behind bars. I don't know how Jen Shah is able to wake up every morning, put on her makeup, get ready, face the day, face the public, and go on as if, nothing is happening. I can only assume that deep down inside, there's like deep turmoil going on, but she puts on a really brave face, and I don't know how she does it, because I can't sleep if I have a traffic ticket. And here she is facing 50 years in prison, and she's on this reunion show talking about garbage, who's talking about who and who's gossiping about who. And I just don't know how maybe this is her therapy. Maybe this is what she does so she doesn't dwell too much on what's really going on. Because if she did dwell too much in it, she would lose her damn mind. But I'm just, flabbergasted on how she can just go on. These are criminal charges, not civil, criminal charges. And she's on a reunion show, cackling with these women like nothing's going on. They talk about her apology tour, how she had to apologize to everybody. Meredith ends up apologizing to Jen and says that when she looked at the season, when she looked at the episodes, she said that Jen treated her a lot better than what she probably deserved, considering what was told to Jen about Meredith. And I think she was referring to how people were telling Jen that it was Meredith and Mary that had reported her to the feds. So considering that, people were telling her this as if this was a fact, Meredith, I guess, felt very humbled that Jen would still want to reach out to her, would still want to be friends with her. Because I think in the very last episode, Jen once again reached out to Meredith, and she was like, well, can we ever be friends? And Meredith said no. Meredith was really, really mean to Jen. And so, but luckily, on the reunion, she realized, how she treated her, and it wasn't cool. And so she ended up apologizing to Jen Shah. So it seems like that they've patched things up. What else kind of stuck out to me? Oh, they talk about Jenny and, her experience living in America as a woman of color. And she talked about all the racism that she's faced, which is also kind of ironic that with you being a minority, why you wouldn't understand the whole Black Lives Matter movement. That's just shocking to me. I don't understand how you can't connect the dots, Jenny Wynn. But yeah, so she's a person of color. She talks about her experience with racism, with her being the victim of it. She went through it horribly with Mary Cosby. It was the things that Mary said to her was just horrible. And I just don't understand how you can't sympathize with another group of people that are experiencing racism from law enforcement, which is like a branch of the government. So it's kind of like your own country is coming out, attacking you and killing you, and because of you being African American or Hispanic American. I don't understand how you don't understand Black Lives Matter, but you want to boohoo about the things that were said to you by Jenny Cosby, and you talk about your own experiences with racism. Anyways, moving on. Let me get off my soapbox on that. What else stuck out to me? They talked to Meredith and they asked Meredith, okay, because Meredith and Mary are really, really super duper tight. And they asked Meredith, how could you have just sat there when Mary was saying these really racist things about Jen Shah and to Jen Shah? Because, when Mary and Meredith had met up for lunch or whatever at the cafe, and Mary was imitating Jen Shah's accent, Meredith didn't do anything. She kind of, no, she did say something. I think she did say something. And it was something really like on the low. She was kind of like, you don't really need to do that or something like that. But she didn't really check her the way she needed to be checked. And then when they were at some event and the question was asked, when Mary herself asked Meredith, well, when I was talking about her eyes, was that racist? And then Meredith stood up for Mary and she was like, well, she said something. It was like in defense of Mary instead of calling her out again. And so they talked about like, why would you not be more vocal in when you saw your friend acting crazy like this, running amok like this? And Meredith said, oh, I gave her a piece of my mind, when we weren't filming. Oh, I told her, I put her in her place when we weren't filming. And Andy Cohen was like, well, maybe you should have put her in her place on camera. Then you wouldn't be here having to defend yourself. So they talk about, how Meredith gave Mary so many passes. When Mary was acting a damn fool on the show. And Heather questioned about, Heather was questioned about calling Jenny an anime character. And Heather said, well, it had nothing to do with her being Asian. She said her outfit was really over the top and she just really reminded me of an over the top anime character. And I'm like, okay, Heather, you're one of the coolest chicks on this show, but no, we're not going to fall for that. We're not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You said that because she was Asian. Other women have had over the top outfits. You didn't call Jen Shaw an anime character when she came out with all those feathers on her. There's been over the top outfits before on this show. So you've never mentioned anybody looking like an anime character until, you saw Jenny Nguyen. So even though I like Heather, I can't let her slide with that. I think it was because of the fact that she was Asian and that's why she said that. And that was unacceptable. So Jenny then confronts Meredith about always standing up for Mary. And she gives the example of when they had the spa treatment. She was really reaching out to Mary, really trying to connect with Mary, and wanted to share, back and forth with Mary. And Mary just wasn't having it. Mary was like, I'm not going to talk to you because I don't know you like that. And Meredith just sat there. And so Jenny was like, why wouldn't you, at least in that moment, stand up for me and tell her that, she needed to, I guess, be a little bit more friendly, be a little bit more open and not be so rude to me, and check her. And Meredith said time and time again, she's like, Mary is a grown woman. I don't have to tell her what to do. I don't have to discipline her or tell her what to say to you. She's a grown woman. Y'all are two grown adults and y'all handle it the way y'all want to handle it. I don't have to intervene on another adult's behalf. I kind of agree with Meredith on that part. I don't like it when adults have to really if Mary didn't feel like sharing anything, because I remember that scene. Jenny Nguyen has said a lot of stuff about what was going on with her marriage. And then, the question was asked to Mary, how are things with you and, Robert? And she says, well, I don't want to talk about it in front of you because I don't know you, which I didn't see anything wrong with that. So what if she didn't want to talk about it with Jenny? She doesn't really know Jenny. That why would you reveal all your deepest, darkest secrets and all the stuff that you're going through in your marriage to someone who you really don't know? But anyways, I guess Jenny's point was like, well, if we couldn't share on our marital issues, could we have shared with anything else? And Mary just shut the door completely on her. So, but we know how Mary is. Let's say Meredith did try to convince Mary to be more open with Jenny Nguyen and to try to connect with Jenny Nguyen. Would Mary have done it? Probably not. So it would have been all for naught. But anyways, I kind of agree with Meredith. She didn't want to share with you because she doesn't know you like that. What's the big deal? Y'all have time to connect, at another time. So yeah. Okay. Moving on from that. Meredith says that she felt under attack by Jenny. So when Janie was trying to check Meredith about, you're too gung-ho for Mary Cosby and you were never there for me. And Meredith was like, well, honey, it's a two-way street with us because you have been bad to me. You've shown bad behavior to me. And so she talks about all the stuff that Jenny Wynn had done to her that was not the best. She talks about how she misinformed people on the reason why she hired a private investigator. Jenny Wynn made it seem like Meredith just decided to wake up one day and hire a private investigator to investigate Jen Shaw. And Meredith said, no, that's not why I hired the PI. I hired the PI to find out who was sending threatening tweets to me and my family. And then Meredith also says that Jenny had questioned her why she didn't call law enforcement when she got the threatening tweets or text or whatever. I think they were a text. So Jenny was like, well, why didn't you call? In the actual episode, Jenny was questioning, well, why didn't you call the police if you're getting threatening text? And Meredith said at the reunion, you didn't even bother to ask me whether or not I called the police, because I did. And I have a police report to prove it. Meredith said that she did call law enforcement. Okay, I talked about that. And then Meredith called out Jenny for her hypocrisy, because when they had that event, first of all, when they were in Vail, Mary Cosby had given Jenny Wynn a pair of Louis Vuitton boots. Coming to find out, the boots were supposedly used. And so when they met again at some event, Jenny Wynn told Mary Cosby, I'm giving you the boots back because in my culture, we don't accept used gifts. And Mary had said those gifts were not used. The boots were not used. And then Jenny Wynn said, well, they may not have been used, but they're not intended for me. They were actually intended for someone else, but because, they were intended for Jen Shaw, but because Jen Shaw didn't appear, or she didn't show up in Vail, because she was arrested, she gave the boots to Jenny Wynn. And so Meredith at the reunion calls her out and says, you're all high and mighty about people regifting, but your husband gave my husband used golf balls. So what's tea on that? And you could tell from Jenny's face that's probably what happened. Her husband probably did give Meredith's husband some used golf balls. And she was like, well, that was my husband. I don't know why you're asking me about, I had nothing to do with that. My husband did that. Which let me know that, yeah, they were used. Moving on. So then they talked about Jenny using a black accent and rolling her neck like a black woman or whatever. And why would she take on that persona every time she talked to Mary Cosby? I'm sorry. I did not see that. I don't know. I didn't know what they were talking about. I mean, she would do a lot of head movements, but I never saw her as using a black accent. I didn't see that. But then again, there's a lot of stuff that went over my head. I didn't see Jenny Wynn rolling her neck and using a black accent when she talked to Mary Cosby or to anybody else. Now, she did get loud as hell. She did get over dramatic as hell, but I didn't see that at all. So Jenny Wynn was asking the women on the panel, do y'all think I use a black accent? And it was nothing but crickets. So then Heather says that she believes that Mary is definitely a racist. Andy said that Mary told him that black people cannot be racist. Okay, I have heard the theory that the reason why black people or people of color cannot be racist is because racism is a concept of one particular race exuding so much power over another race simply because of them being different colors or different races. And that racism is an institutionalized type of concept. It's it's systemic, it's institutionalized, it is part of the infrastructure of the more dominating race. In other words, if you can have it to where a certain group of people cannot get the same education, cannot get the same type of jobs, cannot get the same type of pay in certain jobs, cannot be treated the same, the justice system is treating people differently simply because of their race, that all of this stuff that's coming up in different infrastructures of our society, the workplace, education, justice, in the justice system, just basically socially, how people of color, when they go to the store, they get followed around a lot. When they enter certain high-end stores, the employees look at them like, what are y'all doing in here? Did you walk in here by accident? All of these things are just a huge part of our society. And it's all based on the fact that one race has so much power and exuding this power unfairly to other groups of people simply based on race, that Black people or people of color cannot be racist because we don't have that power. We don't have the power to exclude white people on the same level that we have been excluded, just like in the bigger picture, like, for example, being excluded from universities, being excluded from, buying a home, being excluded from certain neighborhoods, being excluded from the military. In this huge infrastructures, certain races have been kept out. So some people have said Black people don't have the power to do that. We don't have the power to use racism in that way. But when you look at the definition of racism, it's just about judging people based on the color of their skin. Like, if you just think that, well, Black people are like this just because they're Black, that's a racist thought. And those kind of thoughts can happen with anybody. A Black person can think, oh, white people are like this just because they're white. And you can generalize people just because of the color of their skin. And according to the dictionary definition, that's considered being racist. You're using someone's race to judge them. So I can see it both ways of how some people can think, well, Black people cannot be racist because they don't have the power to be racist. They don't have the power to keep white people out or to keep any other group out of, a lot of this, a lot of social types of social things. So, and then other people can say, well, anybody can be racist because you're just judging people based on their race, and anybody can have those type of thoughts. So I do see it both ways. But Jenny Nguyen does not see it both ways. She completely disagreed and said, oh, Black people can definitely be racist. Then they talk about Angie, that whole fiasco with Angie. I wasn't interested in that. And then they talked about how did Jen Shaw feel about Lisa after seeing the veiled footage. And I guess they were referring to just the fact how Lisa just basically was not very supportive at all of Jen when the news came out about, when she got arrested right there in front of their eyes. And Jen says that she saw Lisa as being really two-faced. And then Lisa said whatever she said. And then she said, you know what, however you think of me, I still love Jen Shaw, as controversial as that may be. And then Jen Shaw said, what do you mean as controversial as that may be? She says, I'm tired of all the disclaimers when it comes to Jen Shaw. People always have to put a disclaimer when it comes to being my friend or liking me or supporting me. There's always some kind of a disclaimer, and I'm sick and tired of it. And that's where the episode ended. It was a lot. Yeah, so that's where the episode ended. My final thoughts on Reunion Part 1. I like it when Heather speaks. Out of all the women there, I think she talks the most sense because she's not judgmental. She doesn't have a problem calling things out, whether it's about herself or about her own friends or about someone that she may not be getting along with. I like it when Heather speaks, but I don't think Andy let her talk as much as I would have liked. And I'm still amazed about Jen Shaw, how she can go about living like nothing's going on. And she's facing 50 years in prison. And Lisa is still Lisa, fake as hell. And Jenny Nguyen is definitely hypocritical, not only with herself regifting a used gift, but on just how she sees how she could be a minority, but doesn't have any sympathy for another group of minorities. And Meredith, we got to call a thing a thing. We have to call a thing a thing. I don't know if you were scared of Mary and that's why you didn't want to call her out on her racist remarks, or if you secretly agreed with Mary. But if you would have done the right thing and called her out when those things were said, then you wouldn't be, two-stepping now. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I really do. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.